thanks so much for making the time to speak with us and to join us for this webinar. I'm so glad that all of you all could make it. What we want to do today is a little bit different. Apart from, of course, sharing fresh ideas with you, I want to be able to figure out a way for you to implement it on your store. So we'll try and keep it interactive. If you have any questions as I continue to walk you through some of the great content we have here, please put it in the chat or in the Q&A section. So I'll try and take it either while I'm speaking or at the end. But generally speaking, the goal of doing this is a very busy period, by the way, of the year. I know for a fact that although we had a lot of registrations, that it's very hard to kind of make time to put enough effort into the next year, because this week itself is super busy. And I'm sure everyone is gearing up for the next wave of sales for Christmas and New Year's and so on. And while you do that, I want to kind of walk you through some ideas and bets, which are a mix of long-term and short-term things. So as I walk you through them, I intend to also share ways in which you could leverage them in a long-term way, and try and at least implement some of the stuff that I show you today before Christmas, ideally, and then see that lift in your conversion rate, or even the way your traffic kind of behaves on the site in general. So let's jump right in. I'm excited to walk you through what we have, and I intend to not take a lot of time today. My objective would be to gift some of your time back to you, unless, of course, if we have a lot of questions, and then in that case, I'm happy to sit and address those in as much detail as possible so that I can add maximum value while we do this. All right, without further ado, let's jump in. So the whole idea of looking at 2025 was that I think it would be an understatement to say that we are going into an extremely different year compared to the 2024 that we were getting into. And I think there are a few different things that make it very different. The first is, of course, it's, the government change in the United States. I know we have a lot of US attendees today. We also have UK and Europe and all of that. But I think the United States government changed the economy. The way the market is going to react to that is going to be a little bit different from how it has been. So that's one. The other massive change is the ease and of access with AI. And so creating content, publishing it, and that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's so much that AI is going to do in the next 6 to 12 months. It's not even a joke. So, it has completely transformed how we look at hiring people, how we look at working on ideas that we have, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a fundamental tectonic shift. We'll not touch upon AI-related concepts today, but I just want us to be on the same page about how 2025 is going to be very different. While we understand what's going to be different, right? Google is getting disrupted. Search is, go out of the window. At some point, there are new competitors, new players like Perplexity and whatnot. So you have to figure out how you optimize your business for that kind of stuff. And, so there are tons of changes that are happening. There are also some things that will remain constant, which can never change, right? Jeff Bezos from Amazon, for example, has said this several times, that as a business, you have to invest in things. Generally people try and find a way to differentiate. They try and find opportunities of things that will change or are changing in the next 10 years. And can we capture that wave? And then so on. But what the counterintuitive thing and the obvious thing to do is, instead of betting on things that are changing, why not bet on things that will never change? And so what he says is, for example, to make sure that we do that, Amazon spends an unsurmountable amount of money on things that will never change. For example, your customers will never say, I want more expensive products, right? If you can give the customer a product at the best possible price, you are already winning. And so any amount of money that Amazon invests in that as a pursuit will pay its dividends many times over. And that same thing applies to shipping, for example. That same thing applies to how you drive traffic. So I think while there's a lot that's changing, there's AI, the e-commerce blueprint itself is getting rewritten because of that. And I'll talk about that. I'm happy to share my thoughts about that as well. What's not changing is how your customers think, how they look at your brand. What can you change about that? For example, the value that you provide to them, the fundamental needs of the customer, those things are not changing. And so if we can just lean in on that, if we can go be a little bit more insight driven, we can really unleash the true strengths of whatever business we are trying to build, right? So whether it's a simple t-shirt store, someone who's selling power tools, we've got a wide variety of people that will be showing up today. But I think it's important that we acknowledge that there are some parts of the business that make you stronger. So let's focus on those. And I'm going to get into blueprint. Again, the blueprint is essentially a few ideas and few new ideas that we would like for you to implement. And then I'll talk through how you can try and bring it into the business. The first one that we want to get into is just commit to solving product discovery on your site. A lot of the traffic that is coming in to e-commerce sites at the moment is at the moment entering from the product page. And the assumption is that because product X created demand, it is also what will convert that demand. But that's not true. And so the reason I say that is because your highest converting products could be different from your highest or your most popular products. And also, if you have more than 50 SKUs, we track a metric called TTP, which is time to product, which is how long does it take for a customer to find the product that they finally bought. So you would essentially look at all your conversions in a silo, everybody who actually bought for the last 60 days, maybe, and then look at how much time did it take for them to reach the product before they decided to buy it. That will tell you the time that ideally a high intent customer is willing to spend with you before they make a purchase. Some revealing things that we've found when we do this analysis for our customers, for example, is people who are converting and they are transacting are spending maybe less than 90 seconds to actually land up on what they want, and they decide and they just move on, right? And the business, on the other hand, spends unsurmountable amounts of time on everybody else, right? There is so much time being spent on the first 30 seconds. People who are coming in new and figuring out a way to opt them in and all of those things. So I think it's extremely important that you track these right metrics as you put your 2025 plan together. And while you do that, simplify product discovery. So generally speaking, as far as search goes, people who use the search bar on a site convert at least 5 times better than people who don't. And that's a fact. That's fact because we've seen thousands of analytics and hundreds of sites that we know and we've optimized them. A convert card, for context, runs about 10,000 experiments a year. So we have a mountain of data about knowing what works and what doesn't. And so the first thing and most important thing is to make sure your search is really visible. It's really interactive. It immediately helps you find the product. It works for bad spellings. It works for keywords that are not even a part of the product. They could be sitting in the description for that matter, right? The second thing is making sure your navigation menu is making sense, right? It's best that you ensure that there's big buttons, visualization wherever possible, and you're able to do that. And also ensure that you're not taking too long to show customers what they're anyways going to buy. And what I mean by that is Pareto principle applies to every business in the world. 20% of your products drive 80% of your revenue. There is no reason why you should have the customer do a round of the website and look at the remaining 80%. They're going to come back to the top few that matter. So best sellers, prioritize the basics, and I think it'll automatically take you to a good place. The second thing I think people are not doing well enough is generally when a website is getting set up, and I generally see this for businesses under the 100K traffic mark, is that they take time to realize that they are a shop and not a website. And so the classic website layout is home, about us, and then there's a shop button somewhere, and then everything else. And so I take a huge issue with that because you're not a website, you are a store, right? For example, Amazon does not have an about us section, right? And that's a mega store. And so it's the biggest store on the internet. It's the biggest store in the world. So at a fundamental level, the point I'm trying to drive home is think of your store as a shop, and you would realize that as you physically walk into a store, you see some clearance sale items. You see categorization instantly visible. So if you walk into even say, a big box store like a Costco, categories are available and visible to you instantly as you walk in. So if you're looking for home improvement, you just walk in that direction, and you essentially don't spend time absorbing and understanding vague information, trying to sell you, hey, this is the brand, this is the story, and we'll talk about story also as we go, right? So let's go to the next one. Sell through ambassadors. If you can afford to do it, which means if your cost of acquisition is below 20% of your lifetime value of the customer, these are again very important metrics which I want to make sure you add to your blueprint. But yes, your cost of acquisition is your total cost of marketing, including the people that you have in that team, the vendors that you pay, the agency, the ad spend, all of that divided by all new customers you acquire in a given month. How much money do you spend on acquiring divided by how many customers you acquire? So if that number is reasonable today, then you should spend some more money and bring in ambassadors to your brand and then build the brand with them. So the reason we use the word ambassadors here is because normally I see brands doing very high level, superficial influencer campaigns where someone just randomly starts to talk about this amazing skincare routine and how it's amazing. And the reason that it works for a spike in demand and maybe traffic, but it doesn't work to build the brand because trust is a long-term game, right? If you meet someone on the street and they say, hey, do you want to do business with me? If you are somebody who is an extrovert, you might just indulge them. Hey, okay, cool. Tell me what kind of business do you want to get into? But would you trust them? No, you wouldn't trust them probably in the first year of doing business with a stranger. And so trust gets built over years, but it gets broken in a second. And so if you do extremely transactional influencer marketing, it doesn't work. And so what I would recommend we do is, which is an exercise I'm going to ask you to do anyways, is create a document of what I call ICPs or ideal customer profiles. So create a document of, Mr. A, Miss B, and Mrs. C, general population, general people who you think are your ideal customers, right? And so write everything you can about them, their interests, their inspirations, their detractors, what could stop them, for example, for buying a product, where do they live, what do they do, what do they eat, everything you can think of, and just do it. This is something you could do on the fly, because I think majority of the people attending the call today are business owners, so you're very close to the problem as well as the people that have that problem. And once you've done that, that will automatically tell you the kind of ambassadors you want, the kind of people you want to engage with as a brand. And when you engage with them, don't do the one-off. Don't do the one-off. Do it over a period of time. Build a story with them, right? Where the ambassador first talks about a problem they've been facing. They then, mention how they are looking for solutions. They then find a solution the second month. They now are using the solution for a few weeks and talking about it. The third month, they are now talking about how that solution really worked for them, and then so on and so forth. And so if you see, for example, every product that you see being promoted by the likes of Joe Rogan, I don't know what your opinion is of him, but it's a marketing masterclass without a doubt. It generally is promoted on the back of a story. Is that, hey, I was having this issue, weight gain, or not feeling that well, and then I started using this, and then it feels much better. And then, the following episode, it comes up again, and then the following episode, it comes up again. So there are multiple ways in which that is addressed. The second thing is, ensure that you are able to borrow some trust. It's very hard to do that and expensive as well. But trust, when you try and create it directly as a brand, is a little harder. But if you go and engage with a larger influencer, a larger brand, then you borrow trust from them, and then you are able to establish that in that way. The next one is one of those terms that is very consulting inspired, but yeah, zero-party data. And so Forrester Research came up with this term. I think it's a little bit of bloat. It doesn't need to be called that. It's essentially just asking your customers what they want. That's it. That's zero-party data. And so doing quizzes, selection wizards, etc., I think is incredible. But one of the problems I see with people doing that is, A, they're not capturing the data, meaning they're not storing it. So while 2,000 people might have filled in the website quiz, they don't have trend. So they don't know what their customer preferences are, even though they've had this piece of experience on their site for a long time. And that's crazy. At least to be who's extremely data driven, if I don't know something that's already happening in front of me and I can't count it, it's as good as not happening. So asking them about their problems, there are multiple ways you can initiate a quiz. You can ask them about a problem they have. You can ask them about the solution they're looking for. So, you would have to ask yourself, is your customer problem aware? Are they solution aware? Are they solution users and you are a substitute? What part of this thing is it? So I think obviously it wouldn't apply to basic products like somebody who's selling plain t-shirts, for example. But even with plain t-shirts, you can take things to the next level. So I wanted to show you this example. I don't know how many of you have seen this brand. I recently ordered something here. but this is essentially called Son of Tailor. And so I can, order all kinds of products here. I can, for example, pick a t-shirt. And as I go into select a size, I can, they can ask if I want to create a custom size or select a standard size. I can create a custom size. And now they're collecting first party data, right? So height is about 190 centimeters. Age is about, let's say 32 years. Shoe size is 46. And I go next, and then it's asking me what type of body do I have, and then I go into, so it shows me what it looks like, and then it can ask me for fitting. Do I like tight, fitted, or loose? Right? Do you see how the product is changing? And then I go into creating a size, and this is something that they've built on their own. They're obviously a slightly larger company. And so, yeah, and they also do a free remake guarantee. So if you get the product and it doesn't fit you well, you send it back. Like, for example, for me, my preference was I don't like t-shirts that have sleeves that are hanging out like a triangle. And so I asked for t-shirts that have sleeves that can, that sit on the arm. And so, yeah, that's how you order a t-shirt by and also collect first party data. Now, imagine if Son of Tailor has been doing this for a while. They get hundreds of thousands of visits. The volume of data they have of what the consumer preference really is and how they can use that to continue to optimize. I think it would be pretty mind-blowing. The other thing is, even if you are, so once you've collected a lot of data, you will obviously start to communicate with your customers. This is very simple option, which is even while opting in, can you ask them? You can actually ask customers and feel like they're in control by asking for their preferences in terms of communication. So very simple idea, right? Let's get into storytelling. So this is the next important bit. If you're not doing this as a brand, even if you're a really simple brand that sells the most basic products, you can actually do a lot of storytelling, right? And so I'll give you some example. There are some stats here, right? 55% of shoppers are more likely to remember a story, are more likely to buy if they love the brand story. Purpose is really important. And generally speaking, 86% of American shoppers believe brand transparency is more important than ever. All of that is absolutely true. It is also true because I'm sure everyone on this call, including me, prefers brands that have stories and cases where I can at least get a backstory on the product that I'm buying. So Allbirds, for example, is trying to appeal to environmentally aware shoppers. Nike and Adidas and all of these people have been doing it for a while, where they have products made out of recycled material or plastic that was picked up from the ocean and so on and so forth. So all of that is great. But that's really what we're trying to do. We're not saying tell an amazing brand story, build a video, put it on the homepage. No. The idea is that you try and bring out the values that you stand for or wish to stand for in action. And so there are many ways to do it. For example, if you're selling, and I'm going to keep taking different examples. If you're selling electronics products, or if you're selling, let's say, stationery, where do your products originate? Who manufactures them? Where is the material sourced from? Is that ethical? I've seen brands, and we've consulted brands where we've made a small iteration, including the packaging and shipping is 100% carbon neutral, or you can make your packaging and shipping 100% carbon neutral by paying an extra $1, right? And so you are trying to do these things to signal as a brand what you stand for. And that adds a subconscious layer of authenticity to your entire pursuit, because now you're not just somebody selling shoes. You're also somebody who's, kind of owning up this larger agenda, this larger, value that you stand for. So yeah, I think it's important that you put your story together. It doesn't need to be a very elaborate one, but it needs to be something that is honest, and it needs to be something that people want to be associated with. Right? At least your ICP should be, your ideal customer profile should relate to it immediately. Of course, you could take time to build it around your product. You could build it around the founder of the company. You could build it around the shipping. It could be around any one specific factor. The next one is UGC. The other thing I can guarantee you is changing slowly is 2024 was the year of fake UGC, right? Is where you go on Fiverr, you're able to send products, and you have fake user-generated content. A video of someone sitting in the car. guys, I bought this. It's amazing. You must try it. It's fake. We all know it. We can see through it. Nobody is making a video. Even though it might be happening to some degree, I just really think that the amount of effort creators are putting in creating these fake user-generated content, it's really not up to the mark. And so the 2025 UGC wave will heavily rely on authentication and authenticity. And so I strongly feel that UGC is a game changer for trust. As this statistic here tells us, about 8 times more convincing than influencer marketing. So other people telling me they use the product, other real normal people, versus an influencer telling me they use the product, I would trust the rest of the populace, of course, yes. And so I would recommend you reward your actual customers to record them opening the product, using it in the worst quality possible. It's fine. If they do it with their home, at their home with their phone camera, that's fine. Reward them for it still. And what that gives you is extremely authentic looking content that you might feel that, oh, my brand is above all of this and I cannot, but it's fine. If you get a 6 on 10 quality video, it is gold if it is actually from a customer and they've sent it to you explaining their actual experience and they have good things to say about you. So that's something obviously to think about. Live streaming. So I actually did some research. Again, I took the Amazon example earlier, but I want to kind of show you what Amazon has been able to do in India, for example. So Amazon's homepage in India, I'll just open it, has, of course, everything. And now they also have a section called Amazon Live. They were doing this in the US as well earlier. But if you see what's happening here, everything that you see here is essentially, it's a currently running live. I'm just going to mute the site. And is a currently running live video of someone doing walkthroughs of products, people asking them questions, and all of that essentially happening. If you see, there are 1,000 people watching this person right now giving walkthroughs of kitchen products live, and he's selling this $260, some plastic container, whatever you might want to call it. So the limited point here is that live videos, Instagram, for example, I don't know if we have any influencers on the call, and if there are, please say hi in the chat. But when you start to publish on Instagram and you cross a certain threshold of followers, depending on the country you are in, the first thing Instagram does is it gives you $100 if you go live on Instagram. So the highest engagement product, the real-time engagement product, is live, because, and also when someone goes live and you are also online, you get a notification saying, Shekhar went live 2 minutes ago, and you can just join their live stream. I don't want you to spend money on creating a live streaming product, but I think generally speaking, live streaming is going to be bigger in 2025. And so it's important to find a way to bring it in. You could do it in many ways. During working hours or whenever it's possible for you, you could stream on your website, talk about the products. If you are a large retailer, we have a few on the list today. I would recommend that you ensure that you take the time to, demo the products as people are shopping on the site. Build a separate page potentially, and then figure out a way to bring people from outside of the brand to come and do content with you. So for example, we spoke about ambassadors and influencers. This is a great way to leverage them, a great way to leverage their network, and a great way to bring the brand as well as them together, right? The next one is search. I've already spoken about search. What's getting bigger is voice and image-based searches. Image-based categorically is getting much, much bigger. Google Lens is gaining a lot of steam. And so that's obviously very, very important. I think it's going to get even more important as, the modernization of people. So, one of the things that has happened in the last 3 or 4 years is people have gone from using old, your iPhone, anywhere between iPhone 8 to iPhone 7 to 12, are now coming into the whole iPhone 15, 14, 16, and so on. And so that modernization is bringing a UX upgrade where you're able to search for what's on your screen, which wasn't available in older iOS and older Androids. And so search-based, image-based discovery is starting even before people reach you. And if you can find a way to plug in a search that allows you to do that, it's a big win. And I think I would want you to obviously take this with a pinch of salt, because it really depends on the industry you are in. Are you a fundamentally visual product? What kind of people do you deal with, etc. Also, the American Disabilities Act, the ADA compliance, will also probably at some point add this. They don't have it as a mandatory thing at the moment, the voice-based search. I foresee that gets added at some point in the next 2 to 3 years. And so we'll all have to, obviously add it to our sites. Gamification. I think gamification is easier said than done. The problem with gamification at the moment is e-commerce gamification has become a lot like, remember when simpler cell phones used to be around, every manufacturer used to add a Tetris to the phone. And so Tetris became like the only game all the phones had. And the first one to add it, obviously got a lot of brownie points. Fantastic, this one has a game, so I'm going to go and get that. And then later it kind of became a gimmick. And that's what has happened with, for example, spin the wheel pop-ups, right? Nobody cares about them anymore. Nobody wants to spin the wheel. Everybody knows that game, and it's really whatever it is. So generally speaking, from a statistical perspective about gamification can improve your conversion rate, sales by about 20-25%. And gamification sales revenue is expected to be much, much larger in 2025. So what we would much rather do is build gamification into the shopping experience. In this case, for example, you can claim samples, do that kind of stuff. Plus, you could also make easy, make the whole kind of variant selection, customizations easy. I already showed you Son of Taylor. I'm sure everybody's seen something new today. And figure out a way to add hooks. In fact, even for something as simple as an email opt-in, there is a way to go bespoke. There is a way to deploy email opt-ins in a way that they're unique and people really want to do. This is one such case where we've designed something for a customer, where if I click the ball, the player kicks it, and that's when I see a quick quiz. Right? You're asking me, what kind of sport do you support, which team? And depending on my answer, I win $100 gift card. But the bottom line point I'm trying to drive home is, so far, we've been extremely focused on the goal of, for example, collecting emails. That's not the goal. The goal is to drive engagement. That pop-up that I just showed you has a 45% engagement rate, right? Half the people that essentially see it want to click the ball. And that is a goal met. That's exactly what we are essentially trying to go after, okay? The next one is content. I think after a shop is set up, products are merchandised and everything is done, somehow brands tend to take a backseat on the content. And I cannot emphasize enough on how important this is. Generally speaking, content marketing, I think in 2025 will be even cheaper. It says effective content marketing costs about 60% less than traditional marketing. I think content marketing itself is going to get significantly more efficient from next year. But what's not going to change? Now, I spoke about things that are going to change. What's not going to change is quality content will still be top of everyone's mind. Nobody will care for poor quality. So nuanced content will matter even more. For example, if you search for conversion optimization ideas on Google versus when you search for that on Perplexity, on Google, you would hopefully see us ranking and you'd see some of that. But Google's own snippet will include ideas which are extremely basic, right? So do a pop-up, have a cart abandonment email, that kind of stuff. Perplexity, on the other hand, is significantly more nuanced, because the fundamental that it operates on is give fresher ideas to people, and fresh not by the date they were published, but also how long that type of content has been on the internet. And so if that pivot happens, it would really matter how quality your content is and what are you helping the customer with. So now going back to your ideal customer profiles and who you're writing content for, their problems are also evolving every quarter. The average e-commerce entrepreneur 4 years ago was obsessing over SEO, was obsessing over figuring out how they could make changes to the site. Today, after the whole Shopify migration has happened for a lot of the businesses, and there are reliable Magento and WooCommerce developers and whatnot, the focus is completely shifted, right? The focus is on figuring out how the ROAS can go up. figuring out mobile or specific optimization, because in fact, the last 10 stores that I must have spoken with, 80% plus traffic is on mobile, right? And the conversion rate for mobile is still at half of what it was for desktop. So now we are also writing content that's relevant to the problems that exist today, right? Now, this is a simple example where they're publishing guides for separate use cases for the products that they sell, or video storytelling wherever possible, add social proof as much as possible. And then, of course, you could also bring in some authority-driven content. You're an expert at something. That's why you started the company, and it's the founder itself going and selling something, walking them through the nuances of whatever it is that they're selling, and then standing behind the product. There is nothing more powerful than the founder leading the marketing for a business, right? Selling on hyper-localized marketplaces. So, about half of the searches that happen on Google are local searches. So people are not searching for jerky, best jerky in the United States. Nobody is searching for that. People are searching for buy jerky near me or buy jerky. And Google biases towards localization a lot. So it is highly likely to recommend a place to buy jerky which is closer to you or ships easily for that matter, right? And so the idea of doing extreme localization is to find a way to be closer to your customer. So if you have a product that can be stocked at everyday stores, I would figure out a way to do that. I know that's extremely hard, but that's one. The second is figure out a way for people to experience the product before having to buy it online if you're experiential as a product. So that's going to be another important piece. The second is localization is a fantastic way to build community. And then, of course, you could do it in several ways. I had given this example in a webinar earlier as well. The fastest way to build a community out of your customers is to do a pre-launch, which means you could start taking pre-orders, do a launch of a product, which is a pre-launch, saying, hey, this is pre-launch, there's a new product. The reveal will happen in 30 days. You can pay a $1 deposit and block yourself, and it's going to be extremely limited and so on. And so you have like 500 or 1,000 customers making that deposit with you. And what that translates into for you is you have this set of people that are now all focused on a single thing. You do the reveal. On the day of the reveal, bring all of them into a Facebook group or some other community platform. And now you have a captive audience which you can market to for absolutely no cost. Depending on the size and type of your business, I would want you to obviously modify the strategy, but that's how community formation can start for you, by there being something in it for the people that actually are a part of that community, right? Subscription is again super important. Half of the subscription businesses agree that a fair amount of their subscriber base is not very active, and that's kind of embarrassing. But I think at the same time, it's something that you can't really help. And so it's important that instead of forcing people to buy subscriptions, we do smart nudges, and we help people calculate or figure out a way on how they could save money on subscriptions, etc. So the ways of doing that is ideally by figuring out or pitching the value add there is in subscription. But generally speaking, the reason we brought this point in is 2025 will be even bigger for subscription-related products and services. And the reason for that is, in 2024, a few things also grew that grew were rental products, right? Rental furniture, that kind of stuff has grown significantly in 2024. The world is out and about, people are moving around. So nobody wants that commitment to a few things. The other thing is the openness to now make a pivot to healthier things has made it a little bit easier for people to understand that some costs will be recurring, like the health supplements or etc., or anything else that they consume on a weekly or monthly basis. So that way, your customers are becoming more subscription friendly. They are happy to put their card in and subscribe to things. So how can you leverage that is something I would leave it up to you to decide. But I just think that the conversion rate optimization universe around subscription products is fairly well formed, and there are several ways to be able to address that. Personalization, I think, is a word that is overexploited for the sake of marketing. But I just want to emphasize on two things. We run personalization for more than 500 businesses, and engagement to conversion, which means people who engage with personalized recommended products and convert versus people who convert without engaging with them. And we've done that experimentation and comparison. Generally speaking, the engagement to convert for people who see personalized recommendations is at least, if not more, 6 to 7 times higher. And so that tells you a lot about why personalization is super important, right? The other thing is cross-board, cross-platform or cross-device personalization is easier. Most of us are on Chrome or any other equivalent browser. Most browsers have logins. And unless the user is using different browsers on the phone and on their PC, if they log into their phone and then later come back on the PC, the cookie is cross-device. So if on Chrome I visit a site and a cookie is planted, that cookie is relevant on the desktop as well. So personalization becomes easy as a function of that. Now, this example that we have is interesting, where we are saying, hey, to save you browsing time, should we just tell you why we are better? And the customer can obviously they can choose to indulge or not. Similar recommendations in the form of a compare table. Generally, I see businesses generally saying, you may also like, and this is the recommendations. You could also do a compare table, show them the key features for why things are different or maybe better. And then also, showing actual results, personalizing to show user-generated content. And so addressing personalization that way, I think would also make a lot of sense. Contextual urgency. Now, I think this is a double-edged sword. The reason we wanted to bring this in is I hope I'm able to change your mind about timers. Whenever we bring this up, most customers complain that this is extremely gimmicky, not the best way in which they would want to do this, and so on. And so the argument that we generally make is, there are elegant, sophisticated ways to use timers to create urgency, because in a given context, you could still do that. And so, for example, the most classic one is a shipping timer, a timer that encourages the user to complete a transaction for same-day shipping. It looks like this, right? Order in the next 1 hour, 50 minutes for same day. So this is the simplest, easiest way in which you can create some urgency. But then you can also talk about, an offer that is only running for a limited period. And I don't know why businesses don't do it enough. I have seen only two kinds of businesses: the ones that do it all the time, and the ones that never do it. Like I'll just open a store right now. They're called Slick Wraps, right? I guarantee you, there's a timer on the side as we land there. So the 15% off first order. I think it's loading the mobile version for me for some reason. But this site has had a timer on it for the last 5 years, and the timer is generally a few hours, and it comes and goes every day. But so it's a dead. Anybody who's bought from them once knows that the timer means nothing. And so I think it's important to put it in a context and then execute it well. Generally speaking, what we are trying to go after is a few different ideas that you can say here. Show numbers based on responses. Your vitamin. In this case, this is an interesting one where, because you have that first party data, like for example, we were just looking at Son of Taylor, you could actually tell me your fit matches 33% of the customers that buy Son of Taylor t-shirts, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm not created like a weird fit. There are other people like me in the world, and I'm kind of happy about the fact that I'm not ordering something that is completely unique and has never been created before. So that's a good thing. Pop-ups are great. Pop-ups, I don't know why businesses don't do pop-ups enough. I love pop-ups. I think they're extremely underrated. Interactive product page layouts, autoplay images, GIFs, videos are fantastic. They have extremely high engagement. We have heat maps running on more than 500 stores concurrently at the moment. I can tell you videos get a lot of engagement. This, for example, is an autoplay image. But generally speaking, the product page is the most important page of your site. As much information as you can add to that would make a lot of sense. Sticky menus on the product page. Generally, your product has a description, shipping information, why this product, specifications, all of that kind of stuff, but that's all hidden. And so if you could make it a sticky menu that sticks around on the top, that would make a lot of sense. And you could also add, in this case, for example, Keys has added an audio piece. I would recommend after the call you go and check it out. And so you should totally check out what they're trying to do. It's really interesting. And so bringing in audio, bringing in video in whatever way possible, I feel would add tons of value. More relatable social proof. I've already spoken about this. Let your customers do the talking. Keep it as genuine as possible. Imperfection is your friend, because imperfection also looks authentic. If you have videos that are too made up and they look fantastic, then for sure your customers can see through it. They're probably doctored and they're made by people who kind of use your product in exchange for some kind of compensation, probably. Feature reviews from across platform. I think this is a great execution of that. If you see, there are screenshots for comments on Instagram, comments on Twitter, screenshots of Google. So if you could bring that in, that's even better. That creates a lot of trust. And then the last one is harnessing live chat, which essentially is the most basic idea I can give you. About 70% of the sites that my team visits, and we have a large sales team and a research team that goes and finds what's really happening on the internet, either don't have a chat or don't have anyone sitting on it. And so I think today it's the easiest to get a robust chat infra in place with Gorgias or some other tools that are available. It is even easier to hire someone on the other side of the world, probably India or even Philippines, to manage that for you. It's the easiest thing. And so I think if you're not doing it, you're missing out. The chat and convert rate is even higher than search and convert. So as far as metrics also go, the chat piece works super well, right? So again, I want to reiterate as we close, and then we can take questions if you have any, that 2025 will be a lot like 2024. Okay? There will be 15 things that will change, and that will probably transform a lot of different parts of how we conduct our lives and so on and so forth. But there will be 1,500 things that will not change, that will remain constant. And so it's best that we bet on those and we lean in on the stuff, on the parts of our business that are robust and are truly the reason we exist, and double down on those trends. So yeah, thanks so much for joining. If you have any questions, please stay back. If you want to listen to other people's questions, please stay back as well. But once again, I'm happy to gift back about 14 minutes of your time. Thanks so much for joining. I hope this was of value. We will see you for our next webinar in the new year. And I intend to do something a little bit more shocking in the next one. So I look forward to that. And if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. Don't forget to select everyone when you're doing that so that everyone can see your question, because otherwise, like every time I end up getting a lot of questions in DMs. Okay, perfect. All right. Thanks so much for your time, folks. Have a fantastic rest of your week and a phenomenal weekend. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance. And I'll see you in the new year. Bye-bye.